At the graduation ceremony, the girl I grew up with confessed her love to me in front of everyone. The crowd exploded with cheers, whistles, and a few overexcited screams. Everyone seemed thrilled. Everyone except me. I just stood there with my mind blank. I already have a girlfriend, I blurted out. The celebration died instantly. You could hear someone's phone drop 2 rows behind me. Sophie's eyes turned glossy in an instant, her voice unsteady as she tried to speak. Ethan, haven't you loved me for years? Behind her, the massive screen flickered with a slideshow of our lives. Me and Sophie in matching footy pajamas, us at kindergarten graduation, us at science fairs, birthdays, even awkward middle school photos with braces and bad hair. There were pictures of her alone, pictures of me alone, but mostly pictures of us together. The song playing in the background was a sentimental guitar ballad, soft and nostalgic, the type people use in engagement videos. She had planned every second of this. She had even woven it into her valedictorian speech. One moment she was talking about the future, the next she was declaring her love. Thousands of eyes were on me. The silence pressed against my ears. Mark, my roommate, jabbed his elbow into my ribs. Bro, you've been hung up on her forever, he whispered. This is your chance. Do not mess this up just because you feel conflicted. His confidence only twisted my thoughts even more. Once, I had liked Sophie so much it felt like my chest would burst whenever she smiled my way. But she had never returned that warmth. She told me I was clingy and pathetic, said I followed her around too much, told me flat out that even if she had no other options in the world, she still would not choose me. It had taken years to bury that humiliation. I thought I had let her go. Apparently, Sophie had not let go of me. Or maybe she had only changed her mind now. And I was standing in the center of her grand declaration while feeling like I did not belong there at all. My mother and Sophie's mother, Penny, had been inseparable since their teens, so Sophie and I were practically raised as siblings. Penny used to tease us constantly, telling everyone she was saving me for Sophie, that we were meant to marry someday. When I was small, I would beam and say yes, proudly promising I would marry Sophie girl and have a house full of loud kids. When I was older, the teasing only made me blush and mumble answers while rubbing the back of my neck. Since we were always together, people assumed we were a couple in the making. Sophie never corrected anyone. That quiet acceptance made me believe there was a future with her, something warm and hopeful that I tucked close to my heart. That dream held on right up to the end of high school. When college applications rolled around, I set my sights on a university known for my chosen major. Sophie's parents found out and immediately started urging her to change her plans. You should go with Ethan, her father said during one dinner, tapping his chopsticks on the table as if the matter was already settled. He is your future husband, after all. You two can take care of each other. Aunt Penny nodded with a bright smile. Exactly, the two of you have always supported each other. My mother laughed lightly. So should I start planning the wedding already? The table was buzzing with excitement, all of them chatting as if the decision had already been made. I just kept my eyes on my plate, my cheeks burning, too flustered to speak. I did not notice Sophie's expression growing darker by the minute. Then she slammed both palms on the table, the plates rattling. Can any of you see that I do not like him? She shouted. He follows me around. He is so needy. He has no self-respect. The words struck like a bucket of freezing water. Shame and disbelief tangled inside my chest. My throat burned. I could not even lift my head. Sophie's father reacted instantly, slapping her hard enough to turn her face. What nonsense are you spouting? Ethan is the best boy who has ever been around you. You think someone like that would still want you if you keep behaving like this? The air collapsed into tension. No one knew what to say. Still, Sophie kept glaring, her jaw tight. I am going to Princeton and you better not follow me, she said, directing every word at me. Having the girl I loved look at me like I was some kind of burden, some kind of mistake, hurt more than anything anyone else could have said. Sophie never made it into Princeton in the end. Instead, fate decided to drop her right back into my orbit at Northwood University. We did not see each other for months, not until freshman move-in day. I spotted her across the quad, dragging a suitcase and looking like she wanted to be anywhere but here. When her eyes landed on me, a flash of discomfort crossed her face. Aunt Penny nudged her forward, which led to Sophie approaching with all the enthusiasm of someone being forced to pet a wet dog. She leaned in close so only I could hear. I got stuck at this miserable school with you. Are you proud of yourself? Her words hit harder than I expected. I stepped away from her and let the distance speak for me. She paused, her hand frozen mid-reach, as if she had not expected me to pull back. Aunt Penny, sensing the tension, quickly stepped in. She offered to walk with me to my dorm and apologized along the way. Ethan, sweetheart, she is just being childish. I am sorry for how she behaved before. I will talk some sense into her. I kept my eyes on the pavement while dragging my suitcase. Sophie was already gone, her figure disappearing into the crowd. It is all right, Aunt Penny. That was in the past. We are adults now, those old jokes do not matter anymore. I will stay out of Sophie's way. But Aunt Penny stopped me with a firm grip on my arm. What do you mean, stay away? You two grew up together. No one knows her better than you. That girl just does not understand what is good for her. She looked me straight in the eyes. In my heart, you will always be the only son-in-law I ever wanted. I had no idea what to say. Aunt Penny had always treated me kindly, maybe too kindly. She had no son of her own, so she spoiled me with sneakers, sports gear, anything she found cool. She often joked with my mother that she was investing in her future son-in-law. She gave me a warm smile and patted my shoulder. You two are in the same university now. Sophie can be a handful, but she melts when treated gently. Be patient with her. I almost felt nauseous. I had once liked Sophie deeply, but liking someone did not mean I was willing to erase my pride or forget everything she had said. I gently removed her hand from my arm. Thank you, Aunt Penny, but I can manage the rest on my own. Sophie did not just settle into college, she took over. With her fair skin and elegant features, she practically crowned herself queen of the freshman class, surrounded by admirers everywhere she went. Meanwhile, I kept my distance like I promised. A few months later, her social media suddenly came alive. She posted a picture of herself wrapped in the arms of a handsome guy. They looked radiant together, the type of couple strangers admire from afar. More posts followed. Pictures of their hands intertwined, birthday gifts, cute arguments, even screenshots of late-night texts. In those messages, she was gentle, patient, and soft in a way I had never seen before. She handled his moods with grace, always responding with warmth. That was the moment I realized something important. Sophie could be caring and tender, just not with me. Whatever remained of my old crush dissolved for good. I closed that chapter of my life, or so I thought. Halfway through the year, she texted me without warning. I am downstairs. I went to the dorm entrance and found her standing there, arms crossed, tapping her foot. She shoved a small box into my hands. My mom insisted I give this to you. Inside was a pair of limited edition sneakers. Before I could refuse, she scoffed and turned away. Trying this kind of trick? Get real. Nothing is ever going to happen between us. I had not even said a word. Still, the sting was sharp. I looked down at the shoes and swallowed hard. That night, I deleted her number and sent the money for the sneakers directly to Aunt Penny. She immediately called, her voice filled with concern. I explained that we were adults now, and giving gifts like this would only cause misunderstandings with Sophie's boyfriend. Aunt Penny went quiet. Then she hung up. I assumed the matter was done. A few days later, while I was walking back to my dorm, a guy I had never seen before ran up and punched me in the face, yelling that I was trying to steal his girlfriend. The entire situation spiraled right into the dean of students' office. That was when I learned the guy who punched me was Sophie's boyfriend. He stomped around the office like a man betrayed, ranting that I'd started everything. Sophie rushed in shortly after. Her boyfriend turned on her instantly, accusing her of wanting to break up with him because of me. She comforted him in a gentle voice, but her eyes kept flicking toward me, tense and uneasy. I heard everything, he shouted. You want to dump me for him? The truth came out piece by piece. After I sent the payment for the shoes, Aunt Penny called Sophie demanding she break up with her boyfriend. Sophie's roommate overheard, and the story made its way to him. He then tracked down the guy who had received a gift from Sophie, which led him to me. After I showed him the transaction, and Sophie repeatedly assured him she had no intention of breaking up, he finally calmed down. But the hostility dripping from him did not fade. He glared at me like I had ruined his entire life. You should know your place when a girl already has a boyfriend, he sneered. The moment felt like a punch to the stomach. Watching Sophie fuss over him, stroking his arm, whispering reassurances, something inside me snapped. I did not speak. I stepped forward and slapped him across the face. Then I turned and slapped Sophie too, a sharp crack in the quiet office.
You slapped me, you monkey!
I am not going to be a prop in your drama, I said, my voice steady. Then I walked out. Because her boyfriend threw the first punch, the school labeled the whole incident as mutual conflict. We both got a warning, and were told to behave. That should have been the end of it. Except now my roommates knew everything. So half a semester goes by, and you never mention you grew up with Sophie? One of them said, staring at me like I had been hiding a secret identity. And, the girl you busted your back studying for in high school, the one you wanted to go to college with, that was Sophie? It felt ridiculous hearing them say it out loud. During a welcome week party, I had been a little drunk and mixed honesty with beer, confessing how I had pushed myself so hard because I wanted to be good enough for someone I admired. I told them there was nothing between us now, but they only grinned like they were watching a plot twist in a romance movie. When sophomore year started, word spread that Sophie and her boyfriend had broken up. That afternoon, Mark barged into our room and announced, "There's a gorgeous girl downstairs asking for you." He even wiggled his eyebrows like he expected drama. I went to check, and it really was her. Even in a crowd, Sophie stood out. People kept sneaking glances at her while pretending not to stare. It had been months since we last talked. She looked at me with a mix of irritation and something softer. "You blocked my number?" she demanded. Her tone irritated me instantly. "What do you want?" I said, ignoring the question and taking a half step back. The distance I put between us clearly bothered her. Her face fell, and after a moment she whispered, "I broke up with him." I stood there, cold, unmoved. For half a year, I had avoided her entirely. If I spotted her across campus, I changed direction. If my roommates joked about her, I kept quiet. There was a time when I thought the sun rose and set around her. But when the shine faded, it faded for good. The girl I once adored was not the girl in front of me anymore. Her shoulders stiffened as she noticed my indifference. She raked a hand through her hair. "My mom found out he hit you. We argued for months because of it. She has always liked you and could never stand me having a boyfriend." Sophie started rambling, drifting from complaint to complaint, as if she needed someone to unload everything on. After a minute, I cut her off. "What does any of that have to do with me?" She pressed her lips together. Her voice grew small. "You know how she is." "I'll talk to Aunt Penny," I said. "I'll make it clear." I turned to leave. I wanted a clean break from all of this, from Sophie, from Aunt Penny, from the entire mess they kept dragging me into. But before I reached the stairs, Sophie called after me again. "Ethan, can you tell my mom you have a girlfriend? If she thinks you've moved on, it will make things easier for both of us." Her request left me frozen for a few seconds. Later that night, I called Aunt Penny. I tried to explain gently. I told her the childhood promise had only been a joke and that Sophie and I were adults with our own paths. But Aunt Penny barreled through every sentence I tried to speak. "Ethan, sweetheart, do not worry. I already scolded that naughty girl. When she comes home, I will teach her a lesson. She needs to reflect on her behavior. She was just blinded by those silly boys for a while. Girls slip up sometimes. She will grow out of it. You have always been the son-in-law of my heart. That will never change. I am not trying to force anything, of course not. But I cannot stand the thought of you two missing your chance and regretting it forever." Her words left me suffocating. I ended the call as soon as I could. Not even 2 hours later, a new post showed up on the Northwood Confessions page. Even if every other man on the planet disappeared, I would never choose him. My hands went cold. It felt like someone had reached into my chest, grabbed my heart, and crushed it. That kind of pain, the quiet, humiliating kind, hits harder than anything physical. I had loved Sophie for a long time, and pulling someone out of your heart after loving them that deeply is not clean. It tears at you, slowly. For a year, I had been trying to numb myself, letting the wound dry and close. That sentence ripped it open again like it was nothing. I ended up telling my parents everything. My mom was furious. She wanted to go confront Aunt Penny immediately, but my dad and I stopped her. After discussing it, we agreed that, even though it felt unfair to Aunt Penny, our families needed distance. If things exploded any further, there would be no repairing the damage. At first, Aunt Penny still called me sometimes, asking for updates on Sophie. I would describe some guy Sophie was dating at the moment. Eventually, she must have sensed the coldness in my voice, or maybe embarrassment finally reached her. One day, the calls simply stopped. Sophie seemed to date a lot after that. My roommates kept me updated whether I wanted the information or not. Apparently, the confessions page was full of whispers about guys from different departments fighting over her or some team captain waiting at her dorm. Meanwhile, I focused on my GRE prep. College has a way of reshaping people. Back in high school, I had been a quiet, awkward kid. But 2 years later, things changed. I traded my heavy glasses for thin gold frames, cut my hair, updated my wardrobe. It felt like I finally fit into my own skin. During my junior year winter break, I went home. At New Year's dinner, relatives teased me about being grown up and asked whether I had a girlfriend. One uncle, slightly drunk, said, "You were always close with the Miller girl, Sophie. Since you two go to the same school, are you together yet?" Weren't the families joking about becoming in-laws? My parents tensed immediately. They had gone out of their way to avoid the Millers for 2 years. But I was not that insecure kid anymore. I answered calmly. "She is doing well. She is on the student council and dating a very handsome guy." My uncle took the hint and changed the subject. After dinner, my mom and I were standing by the door waiting for my dad to bring the car around. That was when a familiar voice called out. We turned. It was Aunt Penny and Sophie. Even though we attended the same university, I had not seen Sophie once in 2 years. She had grown into her looks. A black trench coat, long dress, leather boots, a delicate diamond necklace. She looked elegant, poised. She glanced at me with an unreadable expression. Aunt Penny grabbed my hands warmly. "Ethan, is that you? You have become so handsome. A real grown man." Her affection made me uncomfortable. For years I had avoided them, yet she still sent me a birthday gift every year. We exchanged a few polite words and parted ways. I thought that was the end of it. 2 days later, the entire Miller family showed up at our house carrying gifts. Aunt Penny talked my mom's ears off. My mom tried to stay cold, but it did not last long. Sophie came too. I did not act like the boy who used to trail behind her. I treated her like a distant cousin I barely remembered and went to hide in my room with my computer. "You play this game too?" she asked suddenly. I had not noticed her come in. My mouse slipped and my character died. I sighed in frustration. "This is my room. You can't just walk in." Sophie ignored my tone and sat on my bed with a lazy smile. "It's not like I've never been in here before." I pointed at the mattress. "Get off." She rolled her eyes. "Still holding a grudge? Dave and I broke up ages ago. I was immature back then. Growing up with my mom constantly pushing you at me felt like an arranged marriage. And when I tried to date someone in college, she went crazy." She let out a breath. "I'm sorry, Ethan, for how I acted." Sophie had matured, that was clear. And I understood her now. But understanding is different from forgiving everything. "I accept your apology," I said. "But I don't like people entering my room without asking." I was kicking her out. She did not get angry. She stood up slowly, smirking like she thought I was being dramatic. "You really hold on to things." She reached out, as if she wanted to tap my forehead, like she used to when we studied together as kids. I moved back instantly. Her hand cut through empty space. For a moment, her expression twisted, faint and sharp, before she smoothed it over. She walked toward the door with a quiet click of her heels. "Our little Ethan really has grown up." Those words made my stomach twist. Then a voice crackled through my headset. "Our little Ethan? Who is she calling ours?" At dinner, Sophie offered my parents a formal apology. She said she had been young and thoughtless back then. My parents were not the type to hold grudges, especially against someone they had watched grow up. After her family left, my parents pulled me aside. My mom spoke carefully. Penny said quite a few heartfelt things. "I have known Sophie since she was little. She seems sincere about wanting to make things right. It is normal for young people to act on impulse sometimes. And Penny is truly a good friend." They were both cautious. The two families had shared so many years of friendship, and avoiding each other for my sake had weighed heavily on my mom and Aunt Penny. I squeezed my mom's hand and smiled. "You and Aunt Penny have a lifelong friendship. You do not need to distance yourselves because of what happened between Sophie and me. There is nothing going on. We hardly even see each other on campus." That was all my mom needed to hear. Her shoulders relaxed. "Well, thank goodness. Sophie really has changed. Penny says she is a handful these days, always jumping from one boy to the next. It is a blessing you never dated her." I chuckled at her tone, though my mind drifted to the girl I had just spent an hour calming down, the one who had nearly flipped my room upside down in a jealous fit. I cleared my throat. By the way, tomorrow a friend of mine is dropping by. Both my parents stared at me. A girl, I clarified softly. Their faces shifted into a look that made my ears heat up. Alice had been furious that Sophie had stepped into my room. She had never even crossed that threshold herself. When she heard about it, she booked a ticket that same night. Our university was massive. Somehow, for 2 whole years, Sophie and I never ran into each other. After winter break, everything changed. I saw her around campus all the time. She no longer pretended we were strangers. She waved from across walkways, gave casual greetings, and introduced me to her friends as the boy who grew up next door. Sometimes, she waited outside my dorm holding a box or a bag, claiming her mom made her deliver it. I refused when I could, but she always slipped the item into my arms with a quick laugh, blaming Aunt Penny before I could protest, then walked off. It happened so often that my roommates started whispering, "Ethan, man, what is going on between you two? She is treating you like you are her long-lost boyfriend." The campus flirt has been tamed? I could only bury my face in my hands. None of their theories were even close. Our families talked things out during the holidays. That is all. They all exchanged looks that screamed they did not believe a word. And Sophie, for her part, had completely shifted how she treated me. She added me back on social media. She began sending the occasional message, sometimes asking about my day, sometimes updating me about her classes or clubs. She was calm now, thoughtful, even gentle, exactly how she had been in high school before things fell apart. I wanted to tell her I had a girlfriend, but every time I tried, it felt awkward and forced. I kept waiting for the right moment. Near the end of the semester, right after finals, she messaged me to ask when I was leaving for summer break. I typed back, "I am not going home. I am flying out to visit my girlfriend." She replied after a long pause with a simple, smiley face. That felt like enough of a hint. I met my girlfriend during my 3rd year of grad school. She was visiting our campus for a debate competition. I mistook her for a lost freshman and helped her find the right building. We exchanged numbers, and slowly, the spark grew. We had a lot in common. She loved anime and games, and she was patient about my quiet streaks. Being with her felt steady, uncomplicated, warm. I never mentioned her much to my roommates. Public romance was not really my thing. Then she got accepted into a year-long exchange program overseas. I thought we could handle the distance. I never expected her to show up at my parents' place that winter with her parents, where both families ended up planning an engagement dinner. They were already discussing a wedding after my graduation. I almost choked on my rice. But she squeezed my hand beneath the table and whispered that this was the only thing that made her feel safe. She said it with such sincerity that I could not even be frustrated. My visa got approved soon after, and I spent the entire summer with her. She was always buried in research, often too busy to spend as much time with me as she wanted. Whenever she apologized, I brushed it off. When it was time for me to leave, she looked heartbroken. She promised she would finish early so she could attend my graduation. She said she would bring a huge bouquet of yellow roses, then get down on one knee and propose in front of everyone. I told her she did not need to go that far. She only tightened her grip on my hand and whispered, "You never know. Someone else might try to beat me to you again." I laughed, teased her for being paranoid, and kissed her forehead. I never imagined her words would turn out to be a warning. The proposal at graduation was a disaster I never saw coming. Sophie rushed down from the stage, every emotion raw on her face, and lunged toward me as if she could claim me with a touch. She never reached me. Someone else took my hand first, and a familiar scent filled the air. I looked down and grinned, folding my arms around the woman I loved. She had kept her promise. She had come, and she carried a bouquet of yellow roses, the exact kind I liked. Alice did not look pleased. Her expression was cold, her voice thin with steel when she spoke. "My husband is already spoken for." Sophie froze. The world seemed to tilt under her feet. She stared at us, cheeks flaming, and finally forced the words out. "Who is she?" "She's my girlfriend," I answered plainly. I had never hidden it. "I told her," I added, trying to calm the sudden tension. "I said I was flying abroad to see her." Sophie's face went darker. "You flew abroad to see her? I thought you were just on vacation, maybe looking for a new girlfriend." She sounded as if she could not imagine I might actually have moved on from her. I sat there baffled for a second. The smiling emoji, the casual replies, everything now clicked into place. She had misunderstood it all. But even if it had been a misunderstanding, I felt compelled to defend myself. When was I always in love with you? We barely saw each other during the last 4 years of college. Sophie looked wounded. She tried to point to small things as proof that we were meant to be, the way I had answered her messages, the times I'd shown up at events. She treated those moments like a trail of breadcrumbs. Alice pressed closer, steady and protective. Her eyes, once warm, turned frosty as she faced Sophie. Just because you grew up near him, does that make you entitled to his life? Have you dated enough people to think the world owes you devotion? She did not hold back. Her tongue was sharp, and I could not help smirking at the precise cruelty of it. Sophie swayed, stunned, and I instinctively drew Alice a fraction nearer. Beaten to the punch, Alice muttered quietly in my ear, half joke, half satisfaction. Sophie's public humiliation spread like wildfire. The Northwood Confessions feed filled with posts about her for days. Where once people fought over her, now they piled on with glee. Sirs were right, some said. Others bragged about dating her and called her trash. A few too many people compared their fiancés to what they called Sophie's brand of beauty, the sort they deemed less worthy. It was the digital age, and there was no hiding from it. Luckily, graduation was right around the corner, so the gauntlet of stares and whispers would be temporary. Still, the smear had sunk in. Aunt Penny showed up at our house, not to apologize, but to demand answers. She accused us of hiding Ethan's relationship, of letting Sophie believe she had a chance. Her voice carried outrage. My mother answered with a cold clarity I had not heard in a long time. She pointed out the impossible double standard, how Ethan had been forbidden from approaching Sophie when she wanted distance, and now suddenly he was expected to be waiting on her command the minute she changed her mind. You think Ethan owes everything to Sophie? My mother asked. He is attractive. He is his own person. Why should he hinge his life on her? Aunt Penny faltered, then doubled down on hurt and pride. She argued that no one had told her about my girlfriend, that had she known, Sophie would not have been humiliated at graduation. I tried to explain that I had said it, that I had not hidden anything. But Sophie's certainty had blinded her. Tempers rose. My parents defended me fiercely. My mother's voice was ice cold when she said, Penny, the friendship between our families ends here. It was a severing that felt final. Sophie asked to meet one last time. I spoke with Alice and she supported whatever I chose. We met at the old coffee shop we had used to haunt as teenagers. She sat by the window, tired, without the diamond necklace she usually wore. When I sat down, she watched me for a long while before she spoke, voice edged with bitterness. Do you love her? She asked bluntly. It was a ridiculous question, and I could not stop the eye roll that escaped me. Of course, I loved Alice. I made that clear. Then Sophie spoke softer, remembering small, intimate details about me that belonged to years of knowing each other, the color green, yellow roses, the way I chewed a pen when working through a problem. Her voice shook as she confessed that she had tried to escape her mother's control by dating wildly, only to find that each new boyfriend reminded her, in small ways, of me. She told me how, when I began avoiding her in college, she felt the loss like a pain in her chest, how she had come to regret the cruel words and actions of the past. I listened without touching my coffee. I let her have the space to explain. Then I told her the truth. Sophie, I stopped loving you a long time ago. The light in her eyes went out in a single, fragile instant. She clutched the table until her knuckles went white. Even when I gave up Princeton to stay nearby, that is when something inside me closed off, I said. I gave up the dream, and with it, I gave up waiting. I am not the kid you knew anymore. She faltered, trying to ask what might have been if things had been different, but I was already standing. I shook my head slowly. The moment I surrendered those choices for the idea of us, the chance was lost. I left without looking back. Outside, beneath the tree, Alice waited. I walked up to her and took her hand. We left together, framed in the coffee shop window, a sight I knew would cut Sophie cleanly. She sat there as the door closed, and whatever hope she had nursed crumpled. When Alice and I finally married, no invitation was sent to Sophie or her family. There was no point stirring up the past. Still, news travels in small circles. A mutual acquaintance mentioned that Sophie had been accepted into a master's program at Princeton after graduation, while Alice and I stayed home. I pursued a doctorate and later became a professor at Northwood. Every so often, the memory of that chaotic graduation resurfaced on the campus gossip pages. Even after I started teaching, students sometimes cornered me with wide-eyed curiosity. Professor, did the campus beauty really propose to you at commencement? I would only smile and change the subject. Alice never found it funny. Even years later, she still bristled whenever the topic came up. Life moved on. Alice and I had a little boy, a bright, curious 4-year-old. That summer, Alice traveled abroad for a long-term research project, and our son stayed with my parents. One afternoon in the park, my mother ran into Aunt Penny. Years had passed, yet they exchanged polite greetings as if nothing had ever happened. Maybe it was my son's big eyes or the way he held his toy car like a treasure, but Aunt Penny crouched down to talk to him. "Where are your mommy and daddy, sweetheart?" He answered honestly that daddy was working and mommy had gone far away and couldn't come back yet. My mother told me about it later, but neither of us thought anything of it. That changed the night before Alice returned. We were packing our bags to pick up our son when my phone lit up with a number I barely recognized. Sophie. I froze. I hadn't heard her voice in years. She spoke as if we had parted only yesterday. She told me she was still single, that she was flying in the next morning, that she had been waiting for me. Her tone was one of unshakable confidence, as if her feelings were enough to rewrite reality. "Sophie, I think you're misunderstanding something," I said carefully. "I'm not," she insisted. "I know everything. She's gone, isn't she? You're raising your son alone. Ethan, I don't mind. I'll love him, as if he were my own." My brain stalled. Before I could reply, the phone was snatched straight from my hand. Alice's voice hit the line like thunder.
"Who told you I died? I'm standing right here. My husband and my child do not need you. Not now, not ever."
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for.
There was a long stretch of stunned silence. Then the call simply ended. I looked at Alice. She glared back, hands shaking with pure disbelief. "How can she still be living in her own fantasy?" she muttered, furious. Then she threw her hair back. "That's it. I'm starting a new workout routine tomorrow. I'm going to live until I'm 99, just to spite people like her." I couldn't stop myself from laughing. I pulled her close, holding her as if anchoring her to the present. Some things truly never change.